What's up, YouTube? This is Red Devilosa from Red Devilosa Reviews. Diana Prince of Themyscira, the amazing Amazon, an icon of feminism, the ambassador of peace, the wonderful Wonder Woman. Created by William M. Marston with heavy input from his wife and girlfriend, which also includes all the weird bondage stuff from the Golden Age. She is undoubtedly one of the greatest and most important superheroes in popular culture. When you picture a superheroine, she will be the first that comes to mind, if you are a comic fan. Unfortunately, Black Widow is more iconic to the mainstream audience than Wundy, and you can't really blame them. Despite being a member of the Trinity for DC Comics, aside from the show starring the amazing Linda Carter, Diana has only had 2 animated solo movies, a failed TV pilot starring Adrian Palicki, who also played Mockingbird in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and 2 DCEU solo movies of debatable quality. Hell, her first ever movie appearance was a cameo in the Lego Movie 73 years later. Additionally, her comics have the consistent problem of her characterization and status quo being constantly reinvented and changed due to writers having no idea what to do with her. As mentioned by Gail Simone, it's nigh impossible to create a new supporting cast or villains for her that would ever carry into a new run. Diana is also one of the most mischaracterized characters in all of comics, only behind Superman and Reed Richards. Injustice, the DCEU, New 52, they all butcher Diana, turning her into some sort of bloodthirsty Kratos with boobs, focusing only on her as a warrior, a fault that even the DCAU is somewhat guilty of. Diana, at her best, is an amazing character, a woman defined by her compassion and love for others that will stop at nothing to help those in need, be they her friends or even her enemies. She was raised into one of the most powerful and intelligent fighters in the DC universe, but will still attempt diplomacy first. She looks at our world not with disgust or reservation, but with wonder at what it could be. She has some of the most unique and interesting villains and supporting characters in all of comics, and with the new DCU under the direction of James Gunn, we can only hope it will be properly explored. We already know he's planning to delve into the history of the Amazons, and considering all the different tribes scattered across the DC world, this could be the first actually interesting exploration of the Wonder Woman mythos. Before we get started with the first cast, I would like to preface that breaking down Wundy and her friends for this 83rd anniversary was a bit of a challenge considering all of the reboots and retcons and who's its and what's its galore, so I had to take the help of my good friend AGD for this task. This will make more sense as we get to the first character.
And I have a way of finding out when and where, but it's not going to mean a thing unless I can get to France, so if you'll excuse me. And if you're ever stateside after this is over, look me up. The name's Trevor. Steve Trevor.
Despite being Diana's most recurring and recognizable love interest outside of Batman, Steve Trevor is someone who lacks in terms of interesting characterization. Just like every character in her mythos, Steve's exact origin is in flux. From a U.S. military information broker during World War II, to an ex-Air Force pilot turned aviation firm owner, to an agent of Argus, Steve ultimately always ends up as the first man to ever step foot in Themyscira, with him saved from a plane crash by his angel, unless he is old and gets married to Etta Candy. Steve as a character suffers from being a 1940s love interest that has never gotten a reinvention that truly stuck, unlike, say, Selena Kyle or Lois Lane. He's nice, I guess, and kind, but other than that, he's pretty bland. Thus, over the years, we've gotten a lot of different attempts at making him more interesting, most of which boils down to, let's make him discount Hal Jordan. If you don't know, that's one of Joss Whedon's terrible pitches. Ideally, Steve should serve as a contrast to Diana. His most interesting portrayals have him somewhat jaded and beaten down by life, a man that has faced hardships and seen the lows humanities can steep to during his time on the battlefield, someone to guide Diana through man's world during her fish out of water phase and offer a sometimes needed reality check on what she has to face or when she goes too hard on herself. While being a hardened soldier with vast combat and leadership experience, he is still absolutely smitten with Diana, with her bringing out his charm, wit, romanticism, and long buried optimism whenever they are together. For Steve, I have Milo Gibson, best known for Hacksaw Ridge, All the Devil's Man, as well as the son of someone we don't have to mention. Part of this decision is out of spite because he's a popular fan cast of Wolverine, and I've been vocal about not even having an average height Logan, let alone a tall one. Shout out to Matt Wood from Law & Order. I think Saturday Night is going to get more people to get the idea of Logan out of him. I also believe this is just a better fit for Milo. He's shown the skill as a war junkie / former Navy SEAL turned bounty hunter, and his overall refusal to be defeated in All the Devil's Men. He's honestly got much experience in war-related films in his filmography that playing a character like Steve won't be that much of an issue. Breaking and Exiting gives him an opportunity at romance where he plays a burglar who catches a woman planning to off herself, and he tries to help rekindle her happiness. It's not a good film overall, but it does show a general idea of Steve's level of empathy, which would make Milo a good pick for the character.
Is it true, Artemis? A man on the island?
Go home, princess. That is an order.
I'll take it under advisement.
The Artemis of Bana-Mighdall is an interesting character, created in an attempt to give Wonder Woman her own Death of Superman or Nightfall. Thankfully not that god-awful idea from that god-awful Mark Miller suggesting the rape of Wonder Woman, and the fact that DC Comics even entertained that idea for a bit also goes to show how much they viewed Diana was fucking insane. Right. Back to Artemis. She was introduced after Hippolyta stripped Diana of the title due to a prophecy she foresaw of Wonder Woman's death, which is agreed that was a dick move for trying to throw another Amazon under the bus like that. Raised by the splinter groups of the Amazons in the Sahara Desert founded by Pythia, Artemis started as an arrogant, stubborn, crude, and violent, bordering on bloodthirsty. Only a little better than Azrael, and yet somehow exactly how New 52 and Snyder thought of Wonder Woman should be. Unlike Diana, Artemis sees herself as a warrior first and foremost, not seeing much merit in diplomacy or cooperation, resulting in the two ranging from rivals to outright enemies. However, over the years, Artemis has grown as a person. While still hot-headed and aggressive, Artemis learns to respect Diana and her methods. The two become allies and eventually friends. Diana's influence is likely one of the reasons Artemis was willing to join Jason Todd's Outlaws, with the two even forming a romantic connection, although still very much preferring to solve problems with her fist rather than her words. Artemis is now undoubtedly someone who fights for the good for others, even if her methods result her having the anti-hero. For Artemis of Bana-Mighdall, I have Eleanor Tomlinson, best known for Poldark, The Outlaws, and The Couple Next Door. You might also recognize her from Alice in Wonderland, Jack the Giant Slayer, and the Sarah Jane Adventures. Poldark has her play a lowly servant who evolved into someone more resilient and independent. The Nevers gave Eleanor some experience with intense tones, action, mystery, and conflict in a fantastical setting. Colette is a film that touches on themes of female independence, ambition, and breaking societal norms. Artemis is particularly very fiery when it comes to her unyielding and protectiveness for her people, and I think Eleanor has the right tools for the role.
You cannot be the winner because you are not ready to win, and there is no shame in that. Only in knowing the truth in your heart and not accepting it. No true hero is born from lies.
Antiope is the sister of Hippolyta and aunt of Wonder Woman, where the two of them were blessed by the goddesses for their abilities and founded Themyscira for Amazons to live in peace and harmony. She serves as a general for the Amazons after Hercules and Theseus drugged, imprisoned, and raped the Amazons for Hercules to steal Hippolyta's golden girdle after the Amazons extended their hand of friendship. Antiope renounces all allegiance to the Olympian gods, leaving her golden girdle to Hippolyta to replace the one stolen by Hercules, and went to search for Hercules and Theseus with a contingent of loyal Amazons and her adopted daughter Pythia. She would fall in love with Theseus and have a son Hippolytus, which the Amazons resented, serving beside the men who raped them. Antiope would be murdered by Theseus's jealous former wife, Ariadne, which gets Pythia and the Amazons to steal the golden girdle back from Hercules. Pythia would assume leadership of this group, which would become the Amazons of Bana-Mighdall. Eventually, Diana sees her aunt occasionally as a spirit telling her to find other Amazons out there, guide them, and represent them in a world of men. For Antiope, I have Rachel Nichols, not the ESPN analyst, best known for Star Trek, G.I. Joe, and Continuum. She even has some DC experience from Titans as Angela Azarath. Typically, Rachel has roles that goes for independence and badassery, but Continuum gives her an opportunity as a law enforcement officer from the future who gets transported to the present day, be a mentor for a young Alex Sadler, who is going to be a powerful figure in the future. She guides him through moral dilemmas, the consequences of technology, and the responsibilities that come with his intelligence. G.I. Joe gives her experience as a leader for a team of people, showing her natural inclination to guide others in combat and strategy with the help of her leadership. Antiope is someone who is going to require action as well as being a motivator, and I think Rachel would be suited for the character. Philippus is another Amazon general and lover of Hippolyta. Serving as a bodyguard, she was extremely loyal to Hippolyta when Antiope split from her sister. She was also given the task of training the young Princess Diana in the ways of the Amazons. Two lessons that she had the young Diana learn when she was developing her god-given powers along with her big ego was having masked Amazons fight Diana, where she would win, but she was horrified to see the faces of her unconscious Amazon mothers, as well as when Philippus rolled a boulder towards the unsuspecting Amazons and Diana would use her strength to stop the boulder, but Philippus shot an arrow to Diana's leg that would teach Diana to use her mind instead of her fists when confronted with a dilemma. Philippus was also Regent Queen and Chancellor of Themyscira during the times when Hippolyta either had to step down or was killed because Diana did not want to serve as queen. For Philippus, I have Yetida Badaki, best known for Rise and American Gods. Rise has her playing the mother of NBA superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo. She would show support and guidance to her children as they navigated extreme challenges. She would also show them tough love that would enforce discipline even when the societal pressures that occur around them. American Gods give her the experience as Bilqis, the ancient queen of Sheba. She exudes a commanding presence and an air of regality, something very important for someone capable of being regent queen or chancellor of Themyscira.
That there were those outside our borders that needed our help.
A lot of fans, including even the writers, tend to focus more on Amazons as Diana's main supporting cast. But if Steve is Diana's Lois, then Etta Candy is her Jimmy Olsen. Diana's best friend is a dynamite of a woman. She has had a few iterations and appearances, making casting her all the more difficult, from going plus-sized to curvy to white to black. But at the end of the day, be she a Holiday Girl sorority leader, help hunt down Axis spies, a top-level member of Checkmate, or an agent of Argus, Etta is extremely confident and more comfortable in her skin, boisterous, loud, flirtatious, and unapologetically herself. A more down-to-earth presence that allows Diana to relax a bit and enjoy the simpler things in life. She's also had some pretty interesting romantic relationships in the comics. She managed to bag Steve Trevor before Diana in Post-Crisis, and she even hooked up with Cheetah after Rebirth. The girl gets around. Additionally, despite her being more often than not on the heavier side, Etta is surprisingly athletic, even going as far back as her Golden Age version, where she was an absolute unit. Nowadays, that more combat-oriented side has been shifted into her once being a part of the military. As I mentioned before, with Etta depicted as having two different races and varying sizes, it's a bit difficult to narrow down who I think should play the character in relation to what DC would want as the character. I've never been a fan of this, as I don't understand why they could not have Etta and a new character friend who happens to be a black woman. And with how much we've talked about Wonder Woman's supporting cast getting up the wazoo in terms of any sort of coherent through line with even well-known friends, what's the difference with adding another friend? But anyway, I'd go with Aisha Harris, best known for Abbott Elementary and Daisy Jones in The Six. In Daisy Jones, she plays the love interest DJ to Simone Jackson, playing an important part in getting people to know about the new band in town. Simone thought she was very bold to help her, but Bernie had other ideas to show how bold she could be. Another pick I have is Beanie Feldstein from Booksmart and Lady Bird. She's particularly good with comedic timing and dramaticism with her roles. Booksmart had her confident and outspoken, but also assertive, but she learns to loosen up over the course of the film and learns to embrace different perspectives. Both women are also queer, which is nice to consider when casting Etta. Of course, they're also from two different completely aspects of the character, so depending on what is decided, either one of them can work for Etta.
I know the title they gave you in man's world. For so long it was hard for me to hear. Because it meant you were not my Diana anymore. You were theirs. I was so wrong. You have earned their name. You truly are a Wonder Woman.
Diana's mother and queen of the Amazons, Hippolyta is one of the most important characters in the Wonder Woman mythos. Born from the Well of Souls as the reincarnation of the first woman to have ever been murdered, Hippolyta and her sister Antiope were the first Amazons, with them establishing Themyscira, intent to spread the message of peace, tolerance, and love. However, due to the machinations of Ares, the Amazon would end up coming into conflict with and enslaved by Heracles and Theseus. Hippolyta, however, managed to break the chains of her tormentors and lead the Amazons into rebellion, killing all the men that kept them captive. Jaded and disenfranchised with the world of man, Hippolyta and the other Amazons retreated to the magical gifts bestowed to them by the goddesses, Paradise Island, where they would cut themselves off from the outside world, at least until the next retcon. Afterwards, Hippolyta longed for a daughter she could raise, away from the horrors of the war and violence, with the gods of Olympus instructing her to mold a little girl made of clay, or two, depending on whether the writers remembered about Nubia. That, or we get the stupid option of the queen of the Amazons sleeping with fucking Zeus, who is her grandfather, by the way, you fucking idiots, and her having twins, which we will choose to ignore. We're not gonna discuss Jason ever. Hippolyta as a character is complicated in no small part due to the constant changes in Amazon lore. Generally, Hippolyta is a wise and caring queen, serving as the matriarch and parental figure to all other Amazons, deeply loving Diana, Nubia, and Donna. However, she is also very stubborn and scorned by the outside world. Unlike Diana, Hippolyta looks at man's world with contempt, seeing it as unable to change, a dangerous place that is a threat to the Amazons' very existence. That same reason is why she and Diana repeatedly clashed over the years. Hippolyta attempted to convince her daughter to either give up or strip the role of Wonder Woman. Her paranoia and extreme overprotectiveness are recurring character flaws. However, when the character development kicks in, Hippolyta is allowed to overcome her prejudice, learning from her daughter not to let past wounds affect how they could improve in the future, with her guiding Diana when her daughter requires help. Oh, and there was this one time when she time traveled back to World War II to work alongside the JSA. Cool shit, but of course, not canon anymore. Lousy company. For Queen Hippolyta, I have Ariane Lebed, best known for Assassin's Creed, Mary Magdalene, and The Brutalist. The French-Greek actress has a lot of subtlety that can be brought up by the Queen. The reduced cast in Edinburgh gives her a sense of isolationism for someone who mainly stays with her father, almost unable to understand the social norms of the outside world. The Lobster has her as a background character, but she is observant of the guests that enter the hotel and plays a big part in helping Colin Farrell's character despite being described as a liar by the Heartless Woman. She also serves as someone who resists dehumanizing rules and expectations of the hotel, which suggest a desire for genuine connection and freedom. Assassin's Creed allowed her to show combat skills, loyalty, and nobility that would make her a worthy choice as the Queen of Themyscira.
By the might of the gods, I
I am Nubia!
Nubia is probably the most obscure and underutilized of the Amazons, yet, in our opinion, the one with the most untapped potential. Introduced at the start of the Bronze Age after the god-awful Mod era, Nubia was revealed to be Diana's secret twin sister, with Hippolyta creating her by separating all the dark clay into its own baby. Yeah, let's not dwell on that. Who was then captured and raised by Ares to become the perfect weapon against the Amazons. Armed with sick-ass armor, she and Diana engaged in battle, with Nubia ultimately learning her true origins and choosing to join her fellow Amazons. Then Crisis happened and erased all of that. God, expecting Wonder Woman to have a consistent lore is like expecting Zack Snyder movies to not be shit. In Nubia's second origin, she is one of the first few Amazons to have ever been recruited by Hippolyta and Antiope, specifically serving under the latter as the first Amazon to pass the trial that would go on to decide if Diana was worthy of being Wonder Woman. She was then tasked with guarding the Doom's Doorway, the Amazon's entrance to the river Styx, and such as the Greeks' underworld. She has spent centuries dutifully fulfilling that task until she finally met Diana. Currently, after Infinite Frontier, Nubia's two previous origins were merged, with her being essentially Diana's adoptive sister, while still being responsible for guarding Doom's Doorway. She was also recently given the title of Queen of the Amazons, as Hippolyta went into man's world to aid Diana. Nubia is criminally slept on, barely utilized, outside of a few cameos and one underwhelming YA graphic novel. And it's a shame, because if you look at everything we've got, we have a base for a possible amazing character for Diana. From even these few appearances, we can see that Nubia is dedicated and dutiful, ready to serve and protect her fellow Amazons, even at the cost of her own well-being. She and Diana have a close sisterhood, being a lot more old-fashioned and traditional, almost expert combatant, but still willing to offer mercy and see Hippolyta choose her to be the successor to lead the Amazons. You have all this, yet because of the writers continually reinventing the Amazon mythos without actually using the ones they already have, she's not even a B or C character, but a D-list character. For Nubia, I have Precious Mustafa, best known for Fate, the Winx Saga, and Ted Lasso. In Fate, she plays the water fairy who is tenacious, hardworking, and always thinks about others. She frequently worries about her friends by putting them first, even against her own good. She's often referred to as the perfectionist and beats herself up when she makes mistakes. She's also honest and is not afraid to stand out from the majority, even if something that she doesn't support. Nubia is a character that needs someone capable of making an impact whenever she is on screen, and I think Precious is just the woman that could help get Nubia back on the map.
That was amazing! You just whoosh and then bang!
Little less fangirl, little more Wonder Girl.
Right, sorry.
Cassie Sandsmark is the second Wonder Girl and Diana's... Okay, so in the original continuity, her father was Zeus, but then New 52 made it some made-up god called Lennox, so that means she's Diana's... something that neither we nor the writers could give a fuck about. Regardless of who her father is, Cassie is the demigod daughter of Helena Sandsmark, an archaeologist specializing in ancient Greece, which is how she came into contact with Diana. Cassie already idolized Wonder Woman at the first opportunity, used her demigod powers to jump into action and help her out, ending up as her second sidekick. She was also one of the founding members of Young Justice, joining the team due to her crush on Superboy, and later became a member of the Teen Titans, even taking on the leadership role near the end of the pre-New 52 continuity. Cassie is a bit of a child problem as a result of an absent father and her mother's devotion to her work, with her being kicked out of multiple schools due to her impulsiveness and showboating, in combination with her angst often manifesting through an explosive temper, probably why Diana sent her to be trained by Artemis, all things considered. Despite these flaws, Cassie is the most lighthearted and approachable member of Diana's supporting cast, only behind Etta, and that's because she is essentially a normal young girl that happens to have superpowers. Over the years, she developed into a courageous, strong-willed, and resilient hero who has made her idol and mentor proud. Also, fuck Tom King for still trying to treat her like the childish one. Cass is no longer a kid, she grew up as a person, and also she has aerophobia. Seriously. When some of her most popular artworks include her carefree, flying. Piss off. For Cassie, I have Emma Myers, best known for Wednesday, Family Switch, and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Along with her Greek heritage, Emma has been getting up in the ranks with actresses in her age group, with her being able to be just as much as a staple to Wednesday alongside Jenna Ortega is quite the feat. There, she is extroverted, upbeat, fiercely loyal as a friend. She does struggle with self-doubt and her insecurity of being a werewolf that isn't able to turn into one, plus the pressure from her family. She grows and shows her selfless side to defend Wednesday in the end by finally turning into the werewolf. Family Switch got to let Emma be a bit of a punk with high competitive energy, being a soccer superstar, but her mother doesn't want her daughter to get disappointed like she did when she was a student athlete. Pip is currently still developing as of the recording of this video, based on the series of books by Holly Jackson, which I did get to read, so I won't spoil future seasons. While Cece in Family Switch could have a reckless impulse, Pip in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is intelligent and persistent when it comes to uncovering the truth. She's curious and asks a lot of questions, even to those that are superior to her. Emma's ability to play some down-to-earth characters, but is willing to be an ear for others in need or open to her friends, would work well for someone like Cassie.
You gotta get one of those. I mean, as far as accessories goes, it kind of has everything.
Little memory wipes, some Themyscirian truth coils. So, Walter.
Donna Troy's convoluted, complicated, ever-changing backstory is infamous to anyone who has ever interacted with comics. Her simplest and best origin is that of an orphan rescued from a burning building and adopted by the Amazons with a magic purple ray used to heal her wounds, granting her powers akin to her adoptive family. For all intents and purposes, she is Diana's younger sister, inspired by her to become the original Wonder Girl and helping to found the Teen Titans, going through a few identities, including even taking on the mantle of Wonder Woman. But it went to Troia, which didn't last too long because apparently that word means whore in Italian, so she mainly doesn't use an identity. In a lot of ways, she and Diana are similar, being kind, caring, and always willing to listen to others. On the Titans, Donna often plays the role of the peacemaker within the group, and the one to lend an ear whenever someone has a problem. However, she has her limits, with the constant trauma dumping making her feel like others only seek support from her without ever offering one themselves. Her other common source of conflict is the near constant identity crisis and lack of definitive self, resulting from the comic writers being unable to resist retconning some of her origins every few years. The most interesting aspect of Donna is that, compared to Diana, she's had a far easier time adjusting to man's world and even living a relatively normal life. During the Perez-Wolfman run on the Titans, she even got married to one Terry Long and had a son. By the way, Long was a divorced college professor, so Donna is definitely a confirmed DILF enjoyer. However, because heroes aren't allowed to have happy home lives, Terry, her stepdaughter, and her son were all sadly killed off. Nevertheless, Donna is still one of Diana's closest allies and family in all but blood. Both are willing to go through hell, or I guess Hades, to help one another. Unfortunately, she is also remembered for Titans, where she died to electricity. What a terrible show and waste of Connor Leslie. For Donna, I have Mikey Madison, best known for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Scream 2022, Lady in the Lake, and Honora, which I did not see, so hopefully that isn't used against me for fan casting someone who's trending now when I thought of it before. Even then, I'm very happy for Mikey and her recent success with Honora, getting her some legitimate Best Actress buzz. I'm still a little peeved that I had a chance to meet her at a Comic-Con, but something came up last minute. Maybe next time. Better Things had Mikey play a character who is struggling with figuring out her place in the world. She can be magnetic and rebellious, emotionally volatile, and often finds herself getting into some trouble. She does care for her sisters, even if it might not seem like it. In Scream, she plays a character who appears to be normal, but is later revealed to have a darker, more conflicted side. She also shows a mix of savagery, cowardice, and obsessive loyalty. It also gave her a bit of experience when it comes to action. Mikey is on fire lately, figuratively and literally, and I wouldn't be surprised if she starts to get more attention from either sides of the pond, but Donna Troy is where I'd like to consider for her.
Try this.
I Someday.
Someday. Oh.
Now it's time for the main event. As discussed at length in the video, nothing is truly set in stone for Diana's origin. Sometimes she's a golem made of clay that is blessed by the gods of Olympus. Sometimes she's an illegitimate daughter of Zeus. Sometimes she's a stranger in a strange land, discovering man's world for the very first time. And sometimes she's been hanging around with the JSA since the 40s. Sometimes it's everything at once because Infinite Frontier, I think. Still not totally sure how that works. At the end of the day, Diana's origin comes down to the princess of the Amazons leaving her safe and comfortable life on Themyscira and venturing into the uncharted man's world to spread the message of peace, compassion, equality, and love. Diana is a character that is unfortunately handled by writers who either don't understand or aren't interested in her. More often than not, both the comics and the adaptations hyper-focus only on some surface parts of her and make it her entire personality. The worst example are that of her Snyderverse and New 52 DCAMU versions, where she is presented as just a brute violently killing her foes. We've all seen that horrible panel of, when I deal my foes, I deal with them. And yeah, Diana normally deals with her foes, but not by killing them. Rather, it's through attempting to understand and befriend them whenever possible. Sure, of the Trinity, Diana is the most willing to kill if necessary, as seen with Maxwell Lord. She was raised in a warrior culture, but just like Superman is the man of tomorrow, and Batman is the world's greatest detective, Wonder Woman is the ambassador of peace. Her compassion and love for all are her most defining character traits, to the point that a fraction of that compassion was enough to nearly drive Darkseid insane. Diana's not a pushover. She's probably the best hand-to-hand fighter in the DC universe and a brilliant battle strategist. She is extremely knowledgeable about the various gods and cultures. She can be vindictive and cold if pushed too far, but her true skill lies in her diplomacy and the ability to see the best in people. To quote Gail Simone's excellent run, "Don't kill if you can wound. Don't wound if you can subdue. Don't subdue if you can pacify. And don't raise your hand at all until you've first extended it." The Amazons cut themselves off from the world of man, and only whenever she goes, even at the worst times, she can see the beauty and wonder of the world and people around her. For the wonderful woman, I have Courtney Eaton, best known for Yellow Jackets, Gods of Egypt, and Mad Max Fury Road. Diana has had an interesting level of discourse as we get to having a new iteration of the character in live action, whether that be her being over 6 feet tall, being played by someone Greek, a bodybuilder, or just picking the hottest actress that was popular at the time in both ways. I do feel like Diana will always be the most difficult to narrow down properly. Courtney is not a stranger to action-packed roles or dealing with fantastical elements like gods and magic. As Lottie Matthews in Yellow Jackets, she plays a schizophrenic girl who served as a voice of reason for most cases, as well as plays a part as a leader when shit gets insane for the soccer team stuck in the woods for 19 months. Parachute is one of my favorite movies of this year, where Courtney plays a girl that is dealing with body image and eating disorder issues. Also cue back to my comments about fan casting Jenna Coleman as Power Girl and how the magic of filmmaking can make someone who's 5'10" like Courtney appears taller than someone else on camera with practical effects. So there's that. Emotional turmoil is something that Courtney has a lot of experience with, which is something that Diana has. Leadership opportunities where she extends a hand out for others, seeing the positive and good in others even when she struggles. Courtney would make a fantastic Diana. And that concludes the fan cast of Wonder Woman and her friends. Let me know in the comments down below on what you think about the list. Anything that changed your mind? Anything that you completely disagreed with? I'd like to know your personal fan cast. I've already accepted a lot of Gunn's decisions for the DCU is just things I cannot really understand. You'll have some characters that are like super old, and then you'll have some characters that are super young, and then you'll have characters that have no relationship to each other, just have relationships with each other. I don't really know what to expect with Wonder Woman, and I still find it weird that there's more focus on Hippolyta prequel than the third member of the Trinity, but it is what it is. Once again, I could not have been able to do this video without the help of my good friend AGD. Support the link to his Deviant Art account in the description down below. If you like reviews and opinions on movies, comics, TV shows, and video games, you can subscribe to this channel, Red Devilos Reviews, for more of that content, and you can subscribe to Another Reviews Core podcast where Unity and I review movies and TV shows every week. Link in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Peace.